Hello everyone, this is Lucas from Lifestyle Custom Homes, and this is our fourth video in the series about improving a piece of land. So here's the situation. You have completed your drawings and you submitted them to the city. The zoning reviewer reviews the drawings to see whether they're in compliance with the zoning bylaws. So usually you get a response between 1 month and 4 months. It really depends on the city that you're dealing with. After the review is done, you get a zoning certificate, and the zoning certificate actually lists all the variances that you require. You need this in order to apply for a hearing at the Committee of Adjustments. So now that you got a hearing at the Committee of Adjustments, be prepared to wait between 1 month and 5 months in order for your hearing to be heard. So who are the Committee of Adjustments? Well, they are appointed by the municipality, and usually there's between 3 and 5 board members. And what they're supposed to do is represent the best interests of the municipality and the citizens. They hear your application and they make a decision on the application. So what is the Committee of Adjustments looking for? This is very important and it's very easy. There's 4 items, 4 tests. The first test, whether the general intent and purpose of the official plan is maintained. The second test is whether the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws are maintained. The third test is whether the variances are considered desirable for the area and for the land. And the fourth test is whether the variances are minor in nature. So what powers do the Committee of Adjustments have? Well, they have the power to approve or reject your application. They take input from all the departments at the city, which includes planning, engineering, the neighbors, as well as the counselor. They use all of this information alongside with any other reports that were prepared internally, and they base their decision on all of this. So what is the structure of the meeting? So there's blocks of times that are scheduled to hear a certain amount of applications. Just beware that these meetings tend to go late, and they're usually running, if you're later in the day, they're running behind schedule by about 3 hours. So when your application does come up, either yourself or one of your designates, which could be your planner or your architect, present your case. Any neighbors or any affected parties also present their case, and the city presents their case. So what is the structure of the meeting? So there's blocks of time that is scheduled to hear a certain amount of applications. These meetings always go late. Don't be surprised if your application doesn't get heard for 3 hours from when it was supposed to be heard. When your application does come up, either you or your designate, which is either your planner or your architect, present your case. Any affected parties, such as your neighbors, also are given the opportunity to present their case. And the same with city staff are given the opportunity to present their case. So everybody only has 5 minutes on the microphone. It doesn't sound like a lot, but in 5 minutes, you can have 10 neighbors. That's 50 minutes of the committee hearing all these neighbors' concerns. So in the end, after the committee takes all of this information and they vote on the proposal, majority wins. So just an aside, what happens if you actually have neighbors that come out? You can actually do 3 things. One of them is you can request a deferral and hear your application at a later date. The other one is you can reach a compromise with your neighbors and make changes to the drawings. And the third option is just to proceed with the hearing if you don't feel there is a solution with any of these discussions. So what happens if you win? I wouldn't celebrate yet, but you're close. There's a 21-day appeal period. Now, anybody that has an interest in your application has an opportunity to appeal it. They have to pay $300 plus HST to the government. There's a hearing scheduled at the OMB. If no one appeals it after that 21-day appeal period, then you get a letter from the Committee of Adjustments saying that your variances were approved, and you can go on to the next step, which is to apply for a building permit. So what happens if you get rejected? Well, you have a few options. One of them is you can drop the application and go on your merry way. Your second option is you can revise the application and reapply. Just note you got to wait all those months again. And the third option is you can appeal the application or appeal the decision to the Ontario Municipal Board within that 21-day time frame. If you do appeal, just so you know, to schedule a hearing currently, it can take up to 9 months. Normally, it takes about 2 months to schedule a hearing at the OMB. So who is the OMB? The OMB is a judicial body with members that are appointed by the province. They're appointed for 3-year terms, and they could come from various backgrounds. They could be planners, lawyers predominantly, architects, or even politicians. The role of the OMB is to hear cases and appeals to the Planning Act. So basically they act like judges in an upper court. Now, appeals don't happen very often, but when they do happen, they can go to either a pre-hearing, a full-blown hearing, or they can be mediated before the hearing, if you're lucky. And just so you know, anyone can sit in on these hearings. All you got to do is go there at the scheduled time and show up, and you can sit in the back and listen to the presentation being made. Unless in rare circumstances it's a closed door hearing, so you can't go into those hearings. So how do the hearings work? First and foremost, you need a lawyer and you need a professional planner. Be prepared to fork over $12,000, up to $30,000 plus, depending on the complexity of your case. And you go to the OMB and you, with your experts that you hired, you present your case. Your opponents, which could be your neighbors, or it could be city staff such as planning or engineering or heritage, they present their case. So everyone has a chance to present their case, and the judge approves it or denies it. One thing to note is if you or the other party did not have a lawyer or a planner, you already lost before you walked through the door. They're gonna tear you apart on that stand. So what is the point of the hearing? Well, good planning practices should be presented by both parties. The judge then decides based on all the expertise and expert evidence provided by each party. The decisions are based on whether your application comply with the official plan and the Planning Act. So sometimes a decision is made right away at the hearing. Other times it can take up to 45 days to get a decision, a written decision back from the judge. For really complicated applications, the hearings can be very long. They can be a full week. So once the decision is made, the decision is final. If your application was rejected, then it's back to the drawing board. If your application was approved, then it will usually take 4 weeks to get a decision letter out from the OMB. You then take this letter and you bring it to the municipality to apply for your building permit. Now, before we finish, there's one last item that I need to talk about. In May of 2017, the Ontario government actually allowed municipalities to create their own local appeal board. So what this does is it goes around the OMB. So far, only the City of Toronto has actually created it, and it's called a Toronto Local Appeal Board. But what it is, it's a huge change that shouldn't be ignored. It gives much more power to the municipality, councillors, and the neighbors. And there's a lot more uncertainty on the direction an application is going to take. So before, an application could have been opposed, by a few people, and it will get approved at the OMB. But now, if a few people oppose it, we don't know what's going to happen at the local appeal board. What we have to do is we're going to wait and see what happens. That's it for this video. So in our next video, we're going to go into more detail about applying for a building permit. This was a lot of information, I know. Thank you for listening. And until next time, the perfect lifestyle is up to you.